Rob G, we got to start here, and a lot to talk about. But first, the crowd in Detroit, did you see all that? I mean, that was impressive. I'm not here to, you know me, they think I hate Detroit because I was a tough columnist in that town, and the Tigers were awful. The Lions
hate
were
Detroit
awful.
so much you're bringing a radio station there.
Thank you, Rob G.
Yes.
That's how much I hate Detroit, right? So, were you impressed by the crowd? Crowd was ridiculous. They said 275,000.
Honestly, I was a little embarrassed because you're out there to watch guys call names for 4 hours.
You know what, Chris? You know what, Rob G? I'm with you on that. And I get it.
Yeah.
For people, it's like a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing.
Sure.
So it hasn't been there. So you go, okay, it can't come to Detroit, and if you're a football fan or whatever, you're not going to go, right? But I'm with you. To stand out there, and unless I got some cold adult beverages, I mean, that is, and the Lions didn't pick till 29th. So can you imagine, even if you had the hometown entrance?
Right, exactly.
Right?
And then when he comes out there with the 23rd pick, the Detroit Lions select a player you've never heard of. Yeah, all right.
And I think wasn't it 29th?
Whatever. I mean, like most of those fans who go to those kind of events, they aren't really following these prospects like that. They know the top 6 or 7 guys.
All they care is he's going to be wearing the team's uniform,
exactly.
The Lion, and that's all that matters. All right, but the biggest thing that happened in the draft, let's talk about that. The Michael Penix Jr. pick by the Falcons. And Rob G, just break it down first, and we'll talk about how this came about, why this came about, because I was with everybody else scratching their head. That didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it sent shockwave through the NFL because, as you noted, Rob, last night with the 8th overall pick, the Atlanta Falcons, who just gave Kirk Cousins a 4-year, $180 million contract, $100 million guaranteed, took Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback out of Washington. Had people scratching their heads, and including Kirk Cousins' agent, Mike McCarthy, told ESPN that Cousins was frustrated and confused by the decision because they never told him that they were thinking of drafting a quarterback. He was expecting them to use that 8th overall pick to get someone to help the team now, whether on offense or defense. So not only were football fans and Falcon fans very confused, but even Kirk Cousins himself was flummoxed.
And rightfully so. Why would you sign an older quarterback, right, and then make this move? Did you sign Kirk Cousins, Rob G, to rebuild, or were you supposed to be trying to win now or try to make some sort of sneaky link and somehow wind up in the Super Bowl or the NFC or in the NFC Championship game? What was this? It makes no sense. I mean, Kirk Cousins and his people have every right to question it. How? Why? What are they doing? How about getting players to help the current quarterback that you just backed up the Brinks truck for? The future's nice. But once you sign Kirk Cousins, guess what? The future is now. It's not 4 years from now, 3 years from now. It makes no sense.
Rob, I only got 2 words for you.
What's that?
Stop it! Rob, I know that this seems crazy on its face. And to be honest, when I first saw the name come across the ticker last night, I kind of had the same feeling you did. And then I took a step back and thought about it. So there's 3-pronged reason as to why I think this Penix Jr. pick, I'm not going to say it was the right pick, but why I don't mind the pick. All right, number 1, Kirk Cousins is in his mid-30s, and he's coming off a torn Achilles.
You shouldn't have signed him. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so
if you're using that.
No, but here's my thing.
Okay, I'll listen. Go ahead.
I think he's going to be fine because Kirk Cousins has never been the kind of guy who was relying on his athleticism or his foot speed or anything like that to be a quarterback. He plays the game above the shoulders, right? Like he's a very cerebral, accurate quarterback. So I think he's going to be fine. But in the event that he's not, you have your quarterback now in place who has tons of experience in college, and he's going to be able to perform at a high level relatively quickly. That's number 1. Number 2, everyone's talking about the contract, right? You gave him all this money, $180 million, $100 million guaranteed. But you and I know, Rob, that the NFL salary cap is very fungible. It's a lot of funny money.
Is that like Funyuns?
Exactly.
Like Funyuns.
It's just as good as Funyuns, to be honest with you.
I would have loved to have been in the room when they were kicking around. Let's come up with this idea for these basically onion rings, right? And somebody said, you know what? They're fun. They're delicious. Let's call them Funyuns.
Let's call them Funyuns.
I mean, Mary, you've had Funyuns, right? Have you had Funyuns, or is that an old people thing?
No, I've had Funyuns.
Funyuns. I mean, who came up with that?
They're fire, though.
Funyuns. Okay.
That's the
really
step
good.
before Planties, Rob.
That's right. 100%.
Plant-based panties.
That's
if
right.
you're an original P1 listener to the
That's
Act Company,
right.
You know about Planties.
Planties.
Coming soon to an Amazon marketplace
That's
near
right.
you. But here's number 2. Okay, so the money. It's not real money. And everyone's talking about the $100 million guarantee. But if you look at the way his contract is structured, first 2 years, nothing you can do about it. He's locked in, basically at $90 million guaranteed. Cap hits like $45 million each year, more or less. But in the third year, if you really wanted to move on, it's only going to cost you $12.5 million against the cap to move off of Kirk Cousins, which in today's NFL is peanuts. $12.5 million against the cap is basically the equivalent of what my Raiders are paying Gardner Minshew to be a stopgap. It's what the Vikings are paying Sam Darnold to be a stopgap. So that's not necessarily a big, hurdle for them. And the last one, and to me the most important one, is the Atlanta Falcons quarterback situation has been a graveyard for like 7 years now. They had the corpse of Matt Ryan there at the end. They had Marcus Mariota. They had Desmond Ridder. They had Taylor Heineke. So I would understand why a team like the Falcons, who has seen firsthand that if you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't matter what the rest of your roster looks like because you're not going to win anyway. Why they would say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and double down, taking a guy 8th overall, like triple down on the position so that we are not stuck in this position again moving forward.
I don't buy it. That's fine. If you wanted to get a quarterback and you had a pick, right, the 8th pick, why in the world would you have signed Kirk Cousins coming off an injury and the money? I hear about all that. Then I would have, if I was really hell-bent on getting a quarterback, right? How many quarterbacks went? There were 6, right?
6 in the first 12.
Okay.
Which means only 2 of them are going to be any good.
So there are 6. You have the 8th pick, and if you were hell-bent on getting one of those young quarterbacks, you could have moved up without signing Kirk Cousins, right? Could you have not moved up and made
you
sure?
You could have, yes.
If I move up to 6, I'm going to get at least one of those quarterbacks.
Sure.
And it probably would have been Penix, right?
Yeah, if they really wanted him, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and nowadays, if you really believe in the guy, you're going to use a first-round pick, then he could start. Put him in. The sooner you get him to learn how to play, I just don't buy into it. It's not like the Aaron Rodgers thing when you had a Hall of Fame quarterback sitting there. You just brought in Kirk Cousins. It doesn't make sense. When Aaron Rodgers said, you had a Hall of Fame quarterback in front of him, right? That's the only time you should have somebody. Kirk Cousins ain't a Hall of Fame quarterback. It doesn't make sense, Rob G.
But Rob,
this is why the Falcons are bad. This is why they've always been bad. This is why they choked the Tom Brady and the Patriots. I'm going to still throw that in there.
Okay. But didn't Andy Reid say, and he's, supposedly the quarterback guru of this era, this generation, he said, he's one of the guys who said, the best time to look for a quarterback is when you already have one.
I
because
get
what
that.
you don't want to do is you don't want to be the New York Giants, who didn't have a quarterback, and they reached for Daniel Jones. You don't want to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, didn't have a quarterback, and they reached for Kenny Pickett.
I get that.
So get the guy. If you think that Penix can be the guy, then why wouldn't you draft him?
But why does he need to sit a couple years behind somebody if you really believe he's the guy and you're using a first-round pick?
Because you don't want to crush his confidence.
Nah.
So much of these quarterbacks is about situation more than ability.
Yeah, but if you thought that you had a team that was worthy of signing a free agent quarterback at that money, Rob G, that tells me you're not thinking about rebuilding. You're thinking about you have something to play for now. Would you agree with that? That you think you have some defense and some receivers. That you believe you have something now, not building towards the future. It makes no sense because he's not going to be playing. It's just a wasted spot.
But what if he plays in 2 years and it's like Jordan Love?
Okay.
Then what?
But the difference is what? Jordan had to wait. Why did Jordan have to wait? You had a Hall of Famer in front of him. Why did Aaron Rodgers have to wait? You had a Hall of Famer in front of him. Those I get.
Mahomes had to wait for Alex Smith, and he wasn't a Hall of Famer.
What was 1 year, and that was different. That was
Why
1
is
year.
that different?
No, that wasn't. Because that's not waiting. Aaron Rodgers waited 3 years. Jordan Love waited 3 years.
He had more than a cup of coffee in a sweet roll.
That's right. Do you see my point? 1 year is something. I got you. If Kirk Cousins was your quarterback and you were going to move on from him, Rob G, in a year, then I got you. All right, that makes sense. Come on, man. This doesn't make sense. This is who they are. This is why the Falcons. You smell that? That's not my upper lip. That is the Falcons.
Oh, God.
All
I
right.
can't believe I'm defending the Falcons.
Yes.